that Saturday morning, he was in full bloom with his uniform on and a commission. And you could hardly tell, except one side of his face was a little bigger than the other. But he did a great job, as he has done for the last 20 years. Anyway, it's a real pleasure for me to introduce Chad as the military aviation winner for 2015. After his commission, he went into the Marine Corps as a second lieutenant, went through the basic school, and then went down to Pensacola for the flight school down there. He did very well. After he finished and got his wings of gold, he was sent to Miramar, the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, just outside of San Diego. And he spent most of his tours there flying the F-18 Hornet, the newest airplane of the day in that time. And his achievements were really very, very good. You see them written down there. He won 5 Navy Achievement Awards and 3 Navy and Marine Corps Combat Awards. He flew over 200 missions in combat in 3 different tours in the Middle East. The first one was in 2002 in Afghanistan. The second was in 2003 in
back to Iraq.
Iraq. In 2003, and then he went back to Iraq in 2006 and 2007. I want to tell you just a little bit about this because it's a little different than some. All of his missions were close air support. You've probably heard that on the news and things like that before. Just being in the aviation audience, some of you may know. But for those of you that don't, I'd like to explain in just a minute, what a close air support mission is. In the Marine Corps, the only reason we have airplanes is to support the ground people. The man with a rifle out there on the point of the spear. Well, when these patrols of infantry go out, sometimes they get into trouble. Sometimes they're ambushed, sometimes they meet the enemy that's more powerful than they are, or more numbers and things like that, and they have to call for help. They do that, and then there is an organization called the Direct Air Support Center in the Marine Corps that sends a message out to everyone on guard. They have a 3-word message that is really golden. They say, troops in contact. When anybody hears that, everybody breaks out their map. They also tell a 6 or 8 digit coordinate of where the troops are. They look at their map, they find that spot, and then they start going towards that area. The artillery, the tanks, and the airplanes. Of course, the airplanes have an advantage here because when they're airborne, and they can be over just about any target quicker than anybody else. So the close air support mission comes into play then. The airplane will talk to the people on the ground, make contact with them, and as soon as they brief them, they will get in position to do drop their ordnance, whether it be bombs or rockets or machine guns, whatever it may be. At that time, the ground people, and it may be an officer on the radio, or it could be a staff NCO, or even a private, will say, we're here and the enemy's there. In a close air support mission, let me give you kind of the dimensions here. The enemy would be over there where the spotlights is, and the Marines would be over here. And this would be the battlefield. You can see that this is a very small place. After alerting the people of where the Marines were and where the enemy was, the airplane will take a position in order to dive bomb or to scrape whatever is required the enemy position. He will radio to the people on the ground I'm rolling in. The man on the ground will say, continue, until he can see the airplane coming out of the sky. When he can see the airplane coming out of the sky, and pretty well is certain that he's got the right place, he'll say, you're cleared hot. Those are the magic words where the airplane clicks on the switch to activate the weapons, moves down the stick, puts his finger on the trigger, and then positions the airplane in the altitude and airspeed and attitude that he needs to drop those bombs. When he gets to that place, he pulls the trigger. Oh, by the way, he's going about 450 knots straight down. That's pretty fast, about 517 miles an hour. And his whole concentration is on that target to keep the pipper or the crosshairs on the target. And when that trigger is pulled, he begins his pull to pull out of the area because he's going to get very close to where those bombs drop and explode. And so he comes up, and then the next 5 to 10 seconds is probably the worst part of the hop, because if he doesn't hear anything in at least 10 seconds, he knows that he probably hit the Marines on the deck instead of the enemy. But with that length of time, the radio silence will be broken, and you'll probably hear one of those, you got him, or yeah, good hit, good hit, great. And the whole weight of the world is lifted off to their shoulders at that time. That's pretty stressful. That's very stressful. Well, Chad did this 200 times in his 3 deployments that he had in combat. We had 2 others, but they weren't in combat. Now, let me tell you just a little bit about deployments, because I want to bring Eric in this too. Lots of times, we Marines go on deployments, go to combat and things like that, kiss our families goodbye and fly off, leaving the wife and families behind. Well, I can tell you this with certainty. Within 2 days of the man flying out, even though a lot of preparations have been made and things like that, one, the wash machine will break. Within 5 days after that, the car will go dead in the middle of the freeway. All of these things happen every time, and they'll happen continually as they go on. But then, it's the wife who stays behind and raises the family that has to take care of it. So while the man is on deployments at war, the wife is on deployment in emergencies. She did a great job.